to
Godzilla Minus One. No spoilers whatsoever, guys, but we do need to talk about a couple of crazy key things about this. First of all, we saw it together with our own sons. Dick,
yes.
what'd you think about it overall?
I love that, the original Godzilla is not the big friendly superhero anti-hero, Godzilla. Godzilla Minus One is back to the OG. This is a big, giant, scary, radioactive monster, and no one is safe.
Yeah, it was definitely, out of all the new ones that have come out, it's the closest to harkening back to that original feel. Obviously, though, it's not quite the original feel in that it's a way bigger production look. And that's actually something that I wanted to bring up, is that this movie has crazy special effects. I think it looks fantastic. It's right up there with all the other ones. I know that there's the other series happening that's more like almost like a Marvel Universe thing happening. It's a
Legendary
little
one,
too cartoony for me in that respect. I kind of prefer this direction with the franchise if they continue it. But they did this for 15 million bucks is what the rumor was. All right, $15 million is what the budget was for this movie, and they had those results. That's
yeah.
crazy.
And what was the budget for Godzilla versus Kong?
Oh, look it
I'm
up, but
gonna
I bet you easily over 150 million. I would bet money
budget
on it.
Godzilla versus Kong budget. Let me budget.
And I'm sure there's a lot more VFX scenes in something like that, but not as tastefully done. Not the aesthetic of this one I really enjoyed. But while you're looking that up, one of the other interesting things is that the director, Takashi Yamazaki, I hope I said that right,
Uh-huh.
that he was asked about the $15 million budget, and his response was I believe, I didn't witness this interview, but I think he snickered at the $15 million and then said, "I wish we had that much." So in
Yeah,
theory, they did it for less than
and
15 million.
Godzilla versus Kong, I got an estimate real quick. It's like between 170 and 200 million.
I was close. I said over 150, or like around there. That was pretty close.
It's
Exactly. Exactly.
crazy.
Like, and that's kind of the going rate. 15 million's net. You won't find any modern VFX movie that's put out in theaters nowadays that's $15 million. And apparently the director said that it was even less. And the only thing I could find on it that kind of explained how the hell that's even possible is a little disappointing of a reason, and that they apparently just get paid a lot less in Japan for VFX work. That's the only thing I could find. So it means that they wrecked themselves and didn't make much money, and they just killed themselves to make something. But it kind of shows you how far you can go.
Yeah. I don't know that perspective of it, but hopefully, the movie is definitely going to gross a good number
Well, here's
with
the
it.
deal. I've got numbers on that, and this is interesting. So, opening 3 days, $11 million, which sounds
Paid for itself.
practically, yeah, it basically already paid for itself. Now, $11 million is not a large box office opening by standards of US releases.
Keep in mind,
However,
it's a subtitled movie. I mean, it's a
well,
sub.
that's right. And so it was the biggest grossing foreign film in that, for as far as an opening weekend. Biggest opening weekend for a foreign film ever was $11 million. Isn't that weird? Like, that's how little foreign films make when they go subtitled. That's the hit that you are taking when,
Yeah.
as far as being a producer. If you're going to put out a foreign film in a theater, that's considered high ranking. And it's made, when I last checked 2 weeks ago, it was at 85 million, which was kind of towards the end of its, theater run, as far as I understand it.
Yeah, I think we caught like the last show, the last weekend. I think it was running was when we
Yeah,
caught it. It was 2 weeks ago or whatever. But that was, dude. It was stupid fun.
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, stupid cool. And like, there's a lot of fan favoritism on this movie online. Like I've done
Yes.
in the last week or so, just perusing the YouTube homemade documentaries about it, and people are praising this movie. Now, granted, I had my own issues with this movie on a couple of things, but
Me too.
you know, but it wasn't anything that really deterred me away from just still loving it at the end.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I felt like it could have been a little shorter. I expressed that after we got out of the screening. I love that it felt like it had real characters and it had a real story that went beyond just what was happening with Godzilla. I love the era it was put in. I love all the stuff. But I did feel like it dragged a little bit. But, overall, I mean, mind blown, major props to the effort. And I know that it's extremely well received. My pickiness doesn't stand up to what the actual reviews say, which 98% on Rotten Tomatoes for both audience and critics. I mean, it's like a total hit. But get this, on the VFX side, just the water alone had...
You are now entering the Cue the Muses podcast. Please reserve submission of any joy meter statistics until after the program.
Five 500 terabytes of data just to process the rendering on the water. 500 terabytes. So
All
the
the-
biggest
All
like
the all
holdup,
go ahead. No, go ahead. What were you saying?
the biggest holdup on their ability was really held up by computer power. It wasn't, at the end of the day, just having to manage that amount of data. That was the weak link where they had to meet compromise, was just on. But as far as the skill set goes and the time they were willing to put in, I mean, they went all the way. It's just like, that was like, the water was apparently the hardest at 500 terabytes of rendering, just space that it needs to occupy for rendering. It's crazy.
That's crazy. It must have had so much individual data for the water. It was, and the scenes where they're in the water, those were some of the best scenes in the movie.
Looked amazing.
It was what I really, really liked about it, that this one captured, that I will say, and no spoilers, but I will say the legendary movies don't even try to capture it in any way, sense, or form. But the Minus One Godzilla really had a couple of scenes where I was questioning if I was seeing a practical effect
Yeah.
on Godzilla, on his face. And a lot
Yeah.
of it, there's a lot of just he is big, he is rigid, and he is still, and he looks sometimes like a doll, like a puppet in some of the scenes. And that to me is a little more believable than thinking that the giant, Godzilla in the legendary movie, where he does big shakes and everything moves and it's so fluid and just, it feels like this one really feels like a giant, rigid, armor plated thing.
Yeah, and you pointed out after we saw it that there was a few scenes where maybe he felt maybe a little bit more agile. It was a little out of place for a moment. Then it kind of tapered back to the more robotic sense. And it's like, that consistency is very hard in VFX world. I listen to a lot of VFX artists talk about, how they've conducted and made all the things. And that's a challenge. It's a real, real big challenge to keep consistent weight. Like you make a character, they're supposed to be a certain weight that puts them at a certain movement range and pace, and keeping that heaviness in all the scenes. And when you start getting super agile, for instance, starts making the whatever the character is look lighter. And so there's inconsistencies there. So it's like always taking that stuff into account in every single shot from every single angle. You have to do more than just put the math in. You have to like aesthetically address if something looks out of place, even though mathematically it should be working the same way. You can't rely on it fully. It's still a lot of eye and assessment from humans.
Yeah, because the way this movie works is in the earlier setting of the movie, Godzilla isn't full size. He's like a 3/4 or a quarter size. I think they said he was like 50 feet in the beginning versus 250 or whatever.
Yeah.
So they did do a great job in his move set in the earlier part. Felt more like, like a Tyrannosaurus in a Jurassic Park movie. He looked like
Totally.
bipedal dinosaur with a tail just wrecking things. And then when he was huge at the end, they had a lot of scenes where he was really, but also what I didn't really think about when we were in the theater is, he's also more radiated towards the end. And I think that the radiated part it affects him in a way that makes him rigid. I was making fun of it.
Interesting.
They called it his adolescent form and then his radiated form, which was the full grown one.
Interesting.
And the radiated one was the one where his eyes didn't really blink. They were just like stuck open all the time.
Yeah. Which I loved because it felt more like the old stuff, I mean, the suits.
Yeah, we talked about that after.
And I love that. I mean, at the end of the day, as amazing as this was, it personally still, and this is completely biased bullshit, but it just doesn't hold a candle to the original Godzilla movies, the guys in the suits and all the buildings being crumbled. I mean, I showed that to Felix, a couple of weeks ago, and
I watched it. You talk about the original.
Check it out. Yeah. Isn't it amazing? It's so good. It's like beyond good. I mean, and that is the inspiration for things like our web series, Cue the Muses, show that we've made. Guys, if you don't know, this podcast was started because me and Dick, have a web series show that we were a rock band, and we made an album with a bunch of amazing other musicians as well. And we unveil our album as music videos inside the story of a scripted web series. It's a sci-fi comedy show. And we're trying to let people know that it exists. And we have 2 chapters out so far. And I'm already trying to do the rebranding of it. There's a rebranding underway about what this exactly is, guys.
Put it in perspective.
Okay. So, guys, hold on.
Today is the 3rd anniversary of the trip that we took.
Wow.
To track vocals when because Kurt was first when you and I,
that's insane.
David, Nadira, and Russ went to Tennessee. Today is the 3rd year anniversary.
That's unbelievable. 3 years ago, we did the vocal recordings, and here we are. And this enters the rebranding. That's perfect perspective, Dick. Thank you. So when we first made this idea, this whole effort, it was going to be a movie. Then we decided to make it a show so we could start releasing it sooner. And because it kind of was fun to do episodes as 30-minute experiences, each one's an event in itself. Each one has a new music video in it. So awesome. So far, guys, we love what we have, but we have only got 2 full completed episodes because we're doing this independently. Takes around 600 hours of editing per episode. Pretty hard to do while we both maintain our jobs and all that stuff.
And it's special effect heavy in the.
It is. And for us, for me, I'm not a VFX guy.
For and so put in perspective, we were just talking Godzilla, the new -1 Godzilla movie is probably about an hour and a half. It was about an hour and a half.
Yes.
2 hours. It felt long, but it was call it 2 hours for $10 million. And our first 2 episodes, episode 1, episode 2, between the 2, they're about 40 minutes, 45 minutes.
We're over now. Oh, each or together? Each,
together.
They're around 30 minutes. We've just broke an hour. We've got over an hour so far.
Around 30 minutes. And in each of those episodes, there are at least around a consistent 15 minutes of VFX, heavy VFX in the Mindscape in the series. So I mean, take the math for whatever that is, and this is no money, no budget, nothing, just doing it independent versus Godzilla -1 with an $11 million budget, and that is an insanely low budget.
That's VFX. Considered a no budget movie practically, and I mean we're literally doing it with no budget. So that being said, I don't like to make excuses about it, but it just does take as much time as it does. And I love working on it as I can. But what what we're going to do, guys, and I don't know what to do about the physical text that's in the episode so far. We have plans for later how we might re-release everything if we don't have enough people that know about it, and re-release it in a fun way, including a theater viewing where it's all one movie, which would be amazing. But for now, I think what we're going to start doing is referring to this, instead of it being a full, show with episodes. What makes a lot more sense to call this at this point is it is a web series. It's an awesome web series. We make chapters as we can, and we've got a third chapter that's been in the editing room for months, and it's coming out amazing, but it's still not done. And what happens is I'll get a slew of work that I honestly can't turn down. I'm at this age and point with my company, Rough Cut Productions, where I have opportunities that might lay the foundation for literally the rest of my work career happening over the last couple of years. I had anticipated and planned to literally just work half a year for 1 year and then knock it out. I did just work half a year for the first year, but it only allowed me to get 2 episodes done, not the full thing. And so I took the pay hit, but I can't do it again. I've got a kid. So now I'm a year and a half old in addition to my 17-year-old. And then what happened was, I wasn't looking for it. I normally had this whole experience of needing to create work for myself, drum it up, find clients and introduce them to the idea of making videos. That has not been the case the last few years, but over the last year and a half, I've had more opportunities come out, like just from, I guess, the quality of my work has brought in people that have interest, and it's been insane. And I cannot pass up some of these opportunities that are right here, so I can actually get a little bit of savings, pay off debt. I was able to pay off all my debt this last year. Amazing. I had that debt for years. I knocked it all out this last year. And I'm going to be traveling to do some of the gigs coming up. It looks like I'm almost certainly going to get a new project that's out in Illinois, which is going to be really fun. And it's for a new franchise. And that's all I can say for the moment. So like a legit starting franchise that's hopefully going to spread stores across the nation. And the car videos have gone insane. And I might end up I'm definitely going to Massachusetts. I might go to Texas. And there's also a chance that I might end up in Dubai if this other client does officially book a project. And so I just can't turn these opportunities down. And keep in mind, I'm networking with all these owners of businesses. Even with the car stuff, they have the money to buy the cars because they all own large businesses. And so I'm making all kinds of networking opportunities here. And that's in fact what the Illinois franchise gig is. He's a car customer. And then it's kind of spreading into this.
Yeah, they call those whales out in Vegas.
Right. Yeah, man. Like I can't, and it's all good people. Like the clients are fun. They're giving me full reins. It's not like it's just amazing. So that being said, I'm still in the editing room on the fastest hard drive I have. Still lives I'm at the music video part of the third chapter, and it's awesome. It's coming out great, but man, I don't want to shortchange it. I could throw something together, but there is no way after this much time and effort that I'm just going to put together a standard rock video edit, not with the bar being set so high by the first two. And guys, if you haven't seen any of our actual web series, please do check it out. This podcast is really fun, and it's becoming something else on its own, which is great. Like we're really enjoying making this podcast. At first, we started this as like a promotion tool to let people know about the show, and it is that, but it's more than that, guys. We're talking about way more in this podcast than just our show. It's for artists and bands, and it's been awesome, man, having these conversations with you like this sit down environment, Dick, where we're forced to talk for an hour and not break away and keep interest in what each other. It's like we get really in-depth conversations. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not get to have conversations like this with any of my other friends. Not anymore. Not as an adult and a business owner. Like the consistency of our talks, it's been amazing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel the same way, because you are a workaholic and I am a workaholic.
Yes.
Constantly going. You and I both, I live 4.5 hours away from all of my friend circle now, that I had because I moved 2 years ago. And so like this type of sit down long conversation that we have on this podcast is something that I really enjoy, that I don't get, outside of this, because, and when I come back and visit, when I come to a show or something in Tallahassee area, yeah, that's where my friend circle is. That's where I have my peer group and my, longtime friends that I can have these types of conversations with. But, you and I have a different type of friendship that grew from doing business together, is how it
Right.
started. And then
Yeah.
and we found out that we both had, and I've heard the only complaint I've ever heard about this show was that, yeah, the podcast is cool, but you and Ash are way too fucking agreeable. Yeah, like you guys agree on everything.
I think
He's
I
like,
know who told you that.
yeah, I was like,
Said that to
well,
me too.
yeah, I was like, well, you know what? I don't know what to say to that. It's just, I'm not gonna pretend to.
Yeah.
We'd have to stage something. It's weird. We're on the
Yeah.
same page about so many things, but that's what I think makes the music that we write together work, because we are two people that come from two totally different backgrounds. And when we write music together, there's a complement that happens, and it works with us and with everyone that we brought into this thing. It was
Yeah.
such an organic, unforced, very natural process of songwriting that we got through to write these songs with. And guys, like, there's still 3 more songs that we haven't even put out there. Songs that I love, that I've listened to now for 3 years, and I want everybody to hear it, but we're just holding on so hard. And it's gonna be tremendous when it's finally there. But for the people that support us and do know what we're doing, and know that the work that Ash has put into this, that everybody involved has put into this, we appreciate you guys.
Totally.
Tell your friends. We're gonna set something up with a YouTube kind of promotional thing where we try to push people to like and subscribe to the channel, start generating some views. I mean, that's right now, that's the only goal for it, is to get people to watch it and enjoy it and laugh.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We've got like these 2 killer episodes with 2 awesome music videos, but by far, I mean, most people don't even know about those yet. I mean, it'd be nice to get them to check. A lot of people aren't going to hop into a 3rd chapter or episode, without having seen the first 2. We still need to get people to check out the first couple. And granted, what we're doing is we put out the episode and then it unveils the music video. And then roughly the idea is like a month after that, we put out the music video as a standalone. So you can go straight to just the music if you want to. But we're just trying to give that first effort of you getting to experience it in a really unique way. I mean, it's a very different approach to putting out your music. And there's been some similarities with things like Tenacious D. That would probably come the closest, but it's still pretty different because, for one, the music's a totally different style than that. We're a progressive, big rock band sound. I love Tenacious D, but we don't sound anything like Tenacious D. We're definitely a rock band. And then also, I think that the style of comedy and the scripted nature of it, it's just pretty different. I mean, we're definitely, and again, this harkens back to the original Godzilla being like my favorite. The campiness, I mean, for me, inspirations are things like Army of Darkness and Evil Dead, Jim Henson. I love Jim Henson puppets and stuff. Like, I love the campiness of things like Spaceballs, and I could go on and on with a large list, but that campiness is really where it's at for me for the comedy. I just love it. It's fun.
There's a fun little venue, not to go on a side tangent, but there's a fun little venue that Buck Bonsai played at the other week when I was in Tallahassee. Kurt and I got to go over there. It's called Cap City. It's in Railroad Square. Kyron and Tristan's buddies, they all go there. It's a video rental store.
Okay.
If you believe that. It's like a little retro retro store in Railroad Square. They have a little bar, but they don't serve beer or alcohol. They serve sodas and water and root beer.
Right.
And in the back, they have a very small but awesome room that's a movie theater. And I think that'd be maybe a fun place to do, at least do like some small screenings, maybe to do there. I'm
Oh,
thinking,
yeah.
Kurt and I are talking about doing an acoustic show up there, booking maybe Defy the Tyrant unplugged, maybe Dave's Last Night unplugged,
Nice.
at Cap City with Buck Bonsai, and the screen, like, because when what I'm getting to that you said that reminded me of this, Buck Bonsai played his set, and his entire set, Army of Darkness, was playing on a big screen behind him, and it was
Oh, wow.
it was one of the cool, no sound from the movie. It was him doing, he does like a loop station kind of setup with a keyboard and a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of, ska, funk, reggae style that he does, Trial by Stone,
Yeah.
and dude, it was
That's
so
awesome.
so entertaining. No
Yeah.
alcohol. So Kurt and
Yeah.
I were up there. We thought they served beer, and they didn't serve beer. So we got root beers, and we were having a great time laughing and watching.
That's awesome.
And the movie behind it was so cool. I mean, I think it'd be a fun out. We should probably do something cool.
That
there.
sounds super interesting. I'm very interested in doing that. That'd be very cool. And in fact, I mean, I guess it depends on where we're at and how familiar people are with stuff. But maybe we do something like that for a third episode release, and then the idea, guys, is that when the fourth chapter, we decided tonight to do this chapter rebranding. But when we do the fourth one, at that point, really would lean on everyone to try and get people to check out what this project, know that it's around, try and get some people together and see if we could secure enough people that say that they would go to a theater screening. If we were to rent out a screen at CMX for one show, would you go? We will get it if you say that you'd buy a ticket to that, and we'll literally put the whole thing together. I'll stitch it together, and it'll be an actual full movie, and the last part of it'll be the new episode, which is pretty climactic, and that'd be so fun and cool and unique. And we'll try to let the town know. We'll get some publications to know, get the newspaper to talk about it. And hopefully, guys, if we can get more people that know about the podcast and the show, so if the fan base is there, we can make a lot of things happen. It's just really been very, very hard to get exposure for this project, not being an active performing band, and we have created a pretty hard thing for ourselves. We're going to do it at some point, but it's a very, very logistically challenging because our band members are a different singer on every song, scattered across the Southeast all the way up to Tennessee. So it's like we've never even played these songs together. You and me have. That's it.
Yeah, it's a tough idea to think to bring everybody together, and it's gonna happen eventually.
It's gonna happen.
I almost feel like what may happen is, it may be a couple of one-off performances where maybe it's not the full group, the full set, every song. But I mean, if we played two of these songs somewhere, that's a normal, that's a 30, almost a 30 minutes.
Yeah. Well, if they added a jam part to each one, like a little 5-minute, jam area that's loose in the middle of each. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're not easy songs to play. I mean, we definitely, a rehearsal would be required before we could go execute these.
Yeah,
they're long and complex, but totally doable. I mean, and I hope to be. Well, I mean, I know I can get the songs back down again. It's been a little while since I played them, but we played them quite a bit. I know all the parts. We can get it back. So
yeah, we'll get it for sure. And you're doing a lot of exercises right now. From what we've been texting back and forth, we haven't really got to talk about it. You've got a couple of classes that you're messing with, things that are humbling experiences.
Yes. Yeah, completely humbling. So For the last like 6 months, I've been trying to, I decided I want, like, man, why did I decide that I'm as good of a guitar player as I am and just kind of stop there and just work with the tools that I have? And I've kind of leaned on this thing that what I will say that I'm really happy with personally on what I can do is I like what I come up with. I do feel confident in that. I know I like it. The people that I collaborate with musically like it. So that's great. It's not like I think that in any way the stuff that I've written isn't like I really like it a whole lot. But
And
I
that's a
didn't.
big part. That's kind of like baseline artistic artistic behavior, artistic skill being there. You
Yes, yeah.
have the imagination to create the riffs, but what you're talking about improving is your toolbox. You're
Yes.
adding more tools to the toolbox, right?
Absolutely. And it's just like working on really drilling into things like arpeggios and my style of alternate picking and exploring really sweep picking. I've never invested time into sweep picking. And those are technique things, but then also going back into music theory, which I know very little music theory. I know enough. I know like the number system and I understand like the general concepts of majors and minors and diminished, but that it kind of stops there. And when I've started listening to all this stuff, it's just you realize, and I've started working on it over months. I realize how many gaps are there, with like, oh, it would just be so much more conversational with my instrument if I really knew the whole vocabulary, and it's like I'm just like I keep working off of cliff note ideas, and then I took those ideas and ran so far with them for years that I think that's a part of maybe me figuring out coming up with my own style. But it's time to expand the toolbox again. And so I have been having this blast with really rediscovering guitar again and I've been playing since I was 16 and a half, and I'm 41 years old. And I guess I took a few year break. That was it. I did take one break for about 4 years where I barely picked up a guitar. But other than that, I played a long ass time. And if I had been working on these things, I realized like I would definitely be a more advanced player with a much larger, palette of options to get to work around with and play with. And so it's just fun realizing again, it's like, dude, you can get better. Like you don't have to just only, and it's fun. Like it's really, really fun to pursue that. And then when I go off on a tangent now and I'm writing a new part, I'm like, I couldn't have played. First of all, I didn't even know about this progression and how these notes could collectively work together. And I've never moved this way, like just working on triads. Triads in itself, like I only kind of knew triads off of the, your low E and low A string. I didn't really understand them vertically and horizontally across every neck with every string set and the inversions, second inversion and third inversions of your main root. Like all this is completely new information to me and I'm not good at it yet. But even in its infancy, in combination with working on technique stuff, I'm literally playing stuff I just physically couldn't have played 6 months ago. And I would not have been able to play what I can play right now. And that's fun. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to keep at this. I want to see how far I can go. And so I've decided I want to be almost like an unrecognizably better guitar player over the next 2 years. That's my personal goal.
That's a great goal. Yeah. And
It's fun.
You're already getting results. You're already getting
Yeah.
noticeable results from what you're doing. And it doesn't, progress is weird, right? Progress is, you get to a point, for me anyways, I like get to a point where, okay, I can play this thing that I like, that I heard that someone else played. I learned to the point where I could play that. Okay. I want to make my own version of that. Like I want to build, like I want to make something. So then you have the one riff that and you can do one thing. And then learning, for me, that was how I learned, was learning other people's riffs. And then eventually there was a point where I just stopped learning other people's riffs. And that was probably my plateau, right? I mean, that's where I think a lot of people plateau is they learn to play a couple of covers, they get a style that they like, and then they start writing, and then they're in that mode, and then it's really hard to push out of that. It's really hard to find that inspiration or that, that those doors don't just open on their own. So for some people they do. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Some people like just have something. I've seen some 16-year-old kids that just, like my son's one of them, like just opens a door and then just does stuff. The other night I walked downstairs, he's playing Primus, like asked, hey Dad, can we cover a Primus song? I'm like, probably gonna be tough to get the other guys and me to with you, but you should definitely learn that. But
yeah.
recently things for me that have been poking out, like experiment with different guitar heights, for forever I was all the way down kind of guy, like Slash plays real low, plays leads great down low. I realized that I just can't play leads that great when they're way down there, because I don't typically play with my glasses on. And here's reality: when my guitar is way down there and the fretboard's way down there, I really can't see it.
Oh, well, okay.
I'm a pretty visual guy, at least early, until I've played it a bazillion times. Then I still have to have visual cues for reference. So I picked it up and I can see it, but then I noticed that my hand's in a little different position and I'm doing things a little bit differently. Most recent thing that I've done is I really like this dude Brent Hines, this guitar player Brent Hines, and he learned how to play banjo before he learned how to play guitar. So he chicken picks. He does a lot of finger picking. So he plays with a pick and he does a lot of really slick things with these fingers that just his left hand that you think is the one that's going to go crazy when you hear it, but it's really not. It's really the right hand, because he's doing a lot of weird things. So I've started incorporating these plucks. These
cool. That's like that's hybrid picking, right?
Yeah,
like where you're picking with the pick and that. I'm not good at that at all. But it's so cool.
I'm not either, but I'm like,
Polyphia does a ton of that.
Yeah, they almost do like no picks, like all strumming with and long fingernail type of thing, almost like classical guitar on electric guitar type of stuff. And they've incorporated like a rock hip hop style with that. But it's there's just cracking the door open and trying to get somewhere. At the end of the day, it's like whatever I want to progress and you want to progress. Everybody is, I think most people as guitar players want to progress. But my days of being young, being like 15 and starting to play guitar, like I had visions of grandeur or delusions of grandeur, whatever the phrase is, to be the best guitar player in the world, and then realized as I got older that okay, that's probably not me. But I want
Right.
but I want to be a notable one for sure.
Yeah, totally.
I definitely want to leave my mark, and to get sentimental, I think I already have because of my son playing.
Oh, well, yeah, that too. That too. But I mean, just to have said it, it's not like, I mean, this, I don't know how to say this out without sounding cocky. I think we've belittled ourselves enough that I can say this and it doesn't sound like I'm full of myself. But what we have written and done in our musical history, not just together, but in our prospective bands and all that, like, it's not easy music to play per se. Like, we're pretty good. I mean, but the how far you can go is insane. There's people that make your jaw drop for ability. And to be honest, that level of musicianship most oftentimes is not the music I listen to. So it's not like I want to be this crazy amazing shredder so I can shred all the time. But what I did realize was, by not being capable of it, you don't have as big of a toolbox, and you literally just don't understand as many of the ideas that are available as are available. You just haven't, or when I say you, I'm talking about me really, but it's like I realized, oh, like I just didn't understand that this connected the way that it does. Literally triads, like that's one of the biggest things I'm focused on for the last month, is just trying to get my head wrapped around really hardwiring triads and how insanely amazing they are for starting to always understand where you're at on the neck, what note you're playing, where, if you're at the fifth, the third, or the root. And it's just like an understanding how those shift together. It's like, oh, this is like kind of like liberating. I feel like I'm unlocking an understanding of the fretboard, which I thought I already had. I thought I had it through learning all my modes. So I know about like Dorian and Lydian, Mixolydian and Phrygian and all that. And so I do know that, but really all that is, if you actually, once, guys, if you haven't learned it, what you're actually learning is literally, when you learn all those modes, is the major scale. It's the whole thing. Every note in it is in the major scale. The only difference is what root note you choose is your root note. And once you choose a certain note as your root note, you're just starting at a different place. And then your resolve happens at a different spot. But ultimately, it's all still the major scale of a particular key. So it's like that. I thought when I learned that, it blew my mind. And that was like amazing. I thought I had it in the bag, just understanding that. And then I delving into triads, and I'm like, oh man, like that's one way to look at it. But I mean, if you understand every direct, like this other way of looking at it is like, oh, I'm coming up with patterns I never thought of before and ways to crisscross on the neck. I just literally had no idea. I never thought about, and then it's making my concept of the modes, those modes that I just mentioned, Mixolydian and Lydian, all that make more sense. And I'm like, oh, cool. Now that I know that I'm here with this triad, like I'm also in this section for, I know this up and down from this mode. This is Phrygian right here. And so then it's like, this is liberating. Like I can just go this, and then I can switch into a triad to link over to this. And it's not like effortless. It's slow. It's stumbly. It's explorative. But it's like, oh, I can see it. I can understand it. And I actually know if I can land on something over here and like, give me a second, but I can figure out this is the fifth of this key, like, way, way faster. And in a way where once I know that that's the fifth, I immediately know where the fifth is in 5 other places, like almost instantly, because of understanding the way that all this connects. And it's very exciting. I'm just like, man, this is really cool. So yeah, I'm taking a music theory course, video one, Jack Gardner, kind of a random YouTuber I came across, but I really liked a couple of his videos in particular that are free on YouTube to watch. He has one specifically on triads. I recommend for anyone to check that out if you don't know what triads are and you just want to learn the shapes. He does an awesome 12-minute video that just shows you all the shapes in the different key, on the different strings. It's a great starting point. And then he's got another one that he just put out that convinced me to go ahead and just buy his course, where he's like soloing and then talks about improvisation and how 10 things that you need to learn to be a good improviser. And I was like, man, I love the way this guy's breaking it down. So I went ahead and got his first course, which is a music theory course and a visual fretboard course. And this is my first week. I've only got, about 30 minutes in on each of the courses. But already it's just really enjoyable. I really like the way he breaks it down. And then the other guy that I had been learning bits and pieces from on YouTube that I kept gravitating towards, and I still check back in with him, is Kiko, I don't know, Lario, I think it is. But he was the guitarist that was picked up by Megadeth for like, I think a few years.
They picked him up after Marty left, right? I
think he was the follow-up.
Yeah, he's the guy that came in after Marty.
And I don't even like Megadeth, guys. Sorry, I don't really like Megadeth. And to be honest, I mean, I hope Kiko doesn't hear me say this, but I don't even necessarily, I'm not that crazy about his original music. But when I see him play the guitar and he's freestyling, I'm like, oh my God, he's one of the most amazing guitar players I've ever witnessed. I mean, when he freestyles, I love it.
There's something to that. Like, and you mentioned it earlier, like, you don't want to, the ones that are so talented and that play the things that are so talented, right? It's not what you listen. That's not what you listen to. Like you want the tools for the toolbox. And when you were talking about learning the triads and the classes you were taking, what the image that pops in my mind is like, it's like you're opening door after door after door after door as a professional musician, and you're learning the instrument. And as a guitar player, doing the same thing. You open doors to new places and new places. And eventually you're so many rooms away from where everyone else is, like you're a casual listener. Like it doesn't register the same, like, because there are people, and you and I are both these kinds of people who listen to things that are very appealing to us and interesting because it's so unique and technical, and the time signatures are just so catchy to us because it's if anything that I don't understand at first, I love, because I have to try to understand it, right? But a lot, your average ear listener will probably like, doesn't understand. That doesn't make sense. That's kind of like how the metal band Meshuggah was perceived when they first came out. And I know that's how I felt. It was like an hour set of them just blasting these crazy things at me that didn't come in, and I couldn't bob my head, and it frustrated me because I couldn't bob my head to it. I was like, but it was so amazing. It was like
Yes. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
incredibly technically insane that I had, and that bred this whole, subgenre of metal called gent, and it's this unique time signature, super detuned guitars. Getting this, there's a whole thing. Bands like Periphery and Polyphia and those kind of guys that came out now, like that's a product of that. But at the same time, you have to take those skills, all those doors you go through, but you have to bring them all back to a point that unifies everything as a whole and makes it appealing. And then that's the goal. I feel like that's the goal as a songwriter, right? To bring all the gaps, to bring all the skills into the same room at the same time, and to let everything talk to each other in a discernible way for everyone to enjoy. But then, now that being said, there's always the ones that are just for that other crowd,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yes, just it's not for everybody for
Well,
a reason. And
and it's the blend, and to have offerings of that throughout an album is the best, because then you get the full dynamic range. You get the simple, just this feels right, and then you get the stuff that's kind of like mind-blowing musician wise, and then like to have the widest dynamic range available to you possible across an album is my favorite thing. I want quiet, soft, simple parts. I want crazy bombastic, blast beat shit at times. I want stuff that's just the funkiest groove, like I'm re-hearkening back in our last episode. We were talking about bands and I'm like bringing up Finger 11 and Stone Temple Pilots are what I've been listening to a lot lately. Meanwhile, what I'm studying is these guitar players that it's like a million notes a minute all over the fretboard. And it's like, that's not, so I love it all, but I will say there's definitely, in learning this other stuff, when I come back and I play like an old Kill Clouseau song, for instance, or something, or I'm revisiting parts of our songs, they're not as hard to play. That's kind of nice. I mean, the easier that it is to play hard, what I considered hard before, that's great, because I want to be good enough that I can just lose myself and just play. I don't want to have to think about playing. I just want it to come out of me. So there is a bonus, right? It's like, even to play the simple stuff, the better you are at, if your top is here, then this stuff that was your top is now comfortable. And that's totally what you want. You want everything that you play in a live setting to be comfortable to you now.
You know who we need to get on this show, and this is
My,
real conversation right here.
oh, okay.
A guitar player on this topic that we need to get on this show. We need to get Stuart Ledbetter from
Okay.
Defy the Tyrant.
Yeah.
He's a quiet guy. He's a very quiet guy. He's pretty reserved. He's not like me and you. He's not jumping out front. Like I could jump out and scream at people. I don't know. Stu's but he's also like low key the best fucking guitar player in the way we're describing right now. Is Stuart?
Yeah.
I've seen him. No matter what the key is, what the style is. He's also in a cover band that does country songs. So
Okay.
he plays country covers, and any key, any style, any tuning, just effortlessly runs the fretboard,
Beautiful.
runs the lead. And like, I feel like he's a guitar player who's at that point where when it comes to soloing and running the fretboard, like you're talking about, and being comfortable anywhere, he always has that. He just has that knowledge and that natural, like, okay, he hears it, there it is, and he's gone, like, and he's shredding, like, not just
Awesome.
effortlessly shredding. I think he'd be a cool guy to. I'll talk to him, I'm sure, while I'm up this week.
If he's open to, hopping in here and talking about some, I'm curious if music theory too, and just technique things that he practices. That'd be a fun, interesting conversation, especially during this point in the journey of guitar. And that's the other thing, is that like everybody's got a different approach to the instrument. We've all invested these massive amounts of time, whatever direction we've chose. That's our journey. So we've all got, when we were writing together, I mean, there were things that obviously were in your skill set that were not in mine, right? And it's like,
vice versa. Yeah. It's like there was a challenge there, because you and I had those different skill sets, and we complemented each other. We also challenged one another, right? When we were writing, and I can only imagine what the next round, whenever the next round is. It's gonna because like where I'm at is like really focusing. I'm really focusing right now. I'm because I'm inspired by you with where you're going on this new journey to elevate your skills. I'm just kind of starting to do I've made a couple of exercises for myself, and my exercises are like, they start like slow to fast, right? Like you start a pattern that's fairly complicated, but really slow. And then as it progresses, it's the same notes. Like I'm doing one, it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. It's 14 notes with open notes in between. So it's probably more like 20, 20 total. But it's a steady, slow progression. And then as it speeds up, it gains tempo, but then it also changes time signature. It's never a different note, but it changes tempo, it changes signature, and it's the same notes, but it always makes sense. My goal is for it never to sound like a forced exercise, like trying to take an exercise and make it sound like an evolution of a song by repeating the same notes over and over again, but changing tempo, signature, and picking style at the same time, and alternating, and those kinds of things. Like, and it's like, I can't explain what it is. I feel like it starts from 4/4 to 3/4, and then it has like a 4/3, 4/3, 4/3 stagger pattern on the picking. And I want to show it to you one of the next times we're together.
Yeah. Cool.
I think you like it too. And then eventually, I'm at with it right now. Eventually it gets to a point where it's just a blazing left hand hammering nightmare that I can't play yet. I'm getting closer and closer. Like I play it one time all the way through, perfect. But then the second time it went to shit. The boat sank, and then it's like my fingers start getting cramping and hurting and things like that. And I'm just really focusing on character with both hands together. Really, like Dimebag was notorious for a metal guy. Dimebag was notorious for, instead of doing a hammer on, hit a bend in there, hit the Texas bend, bend it instead of hammering up, and just really even pulling full chords, and just the subtle sharpness of pulling it purposefully tighter and letting it go and letting it breathe, and just throwing character into the riff, so it's not mechanically
right
doing that, but giving it a personalization, giving it a life, letting it breathe. And it's hard to do that with another guitar player too. If you're playing the same thing at the same time, one guy's might play it mechanically, the other guy might have so much unique character in his playing, it's going to kind of squash together. And that's where the kind of music that you and I write is a good environment for that, because we rarely ever play the same thing in any of the songs on this project. There's rarely a time where you and I are actually locked in and playing the exact same part. I can only think of out of the, the hour of music that we have on this project, maybe a couple riffs, 2-3 riffs out of the whole thing.
I think so. I think there's like 3 or 4, maybe.
Yeah.
And so intentional, because like, I mean, it is cool to sync up on guitars, but it's also like, well, especially on a recording, I mean, you're already double stacking guitars individually for the most part, especially if it's some chord locked in. So you're already got 2 guitars. You're going to probably, like, if you had a riff, you're going to double stack your guitars on the solid riff. On the recording, you're going to use 2 different guitars and 2 different amps. So you've already got 2 different sounds and stack. So if I was playing it, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it is just the reality of it. So if I did the same thing, then we have potentially 4 guitars playing the same thing with the different, and it's like, well, why not play something else and have another melody going and have fun with it, and have, double stack that thing, and then you don't double stack on, in general, you don't double stack on the stuff where the notes have as much character as you're trying to give. You're doing a lot of vibrato or something like that. Like, that's a dangerous time to consistently have double stack, because you're not going to vibrato exactly the same on every take. I mean, unless it's a very distinct or.
And that's what happens when you start double stacking guitars. It's a catch-22. Led Zeppelin started it. They was like, they did, you do 2 guitars stereo, pan one right, pan one left, and then you run one straight down the center, and it's huge. And it is.
It is.
But
for certain things,
when you start double stacking, you lose the character. You always lose the character, and you lose I for years, I mean, literally for years, I've tracked my own stuff, because lucky enough to have a home recording set up, and it is great practice to double track your own tracks and learn to play the same damn thing the same damn way twice. To start tracking over.
It's harder than you think.
Yeah, it's tough. I've been, and Brett's made me feel really bad in the studio a couple times.
Yeah,
I felt really good about a take that I just ad-libbed, and then he made me do it again. And that was where I was like, oh, well, then trying to recreate an improv thing and do it exactly the same, then tough. It's not easy.
No,
but
and especially if it's like spaced out notes. Like, when you're talking about character and giving a character to each note, the faster the notes are together, the less opportunity there is. It does start to become, I mean, if you're shredding, each one of those notes doesn't have some new one. I mean, it has a little bit of a tinge based on pick angle and the aggressiveness that you're pressing into the fretboard, but that's kind of about it. You don't have the opportunity to give each of those notes character at 200 beats per minute. It's like, it's just, and I think that's something that gets lost in music that's constantly there. Like, you got to let it breathe so you can give that unique character and then get it there again. You have to have those crescendos up and down that get you there. So that way you have to create those valleys, because otherwise it just and both things could be said. You could say it the other way too. If everything's slow and spacey and spaced out, it's like the dynamic range where I can go, where you're going to take the listener, all of it starts to become kind of like monotone to some extent. And I just love having all that stuff in there, so it's a maximum
prime example as we're reaching the hour.
Yes,
we're nearing into our hour. I didn't tell you about the bands that I've been listening to on the last podcast, and I'm not gonna
you have 60 seconds. Go.
I'm not gonna go into a segue on it now, but I will give you one song by one band that was a game changer for me at a young age.
I'm writing it down if I haven't heard it.
At a young age, and this is a song that is a prime example of a song that starts in a certain mode in a certain way, and then at one point in the song, it just completely takes you somewhere that you did not expect that the beginning of that song was going to take you. And it goes to a good place. For me, it goes to a tremendously good place. And the name of the band, they're actually in the studio wrapping up a brand new album, and I'm so so fucking excited for it. The band's called 40 Below Summer.
Below Summer. This sounds familiar.
Yeah, 40 Below Summer. They are like pre-Mudvayne style, that type
Okay.
of, like a new metal. And the song is called Falling Down.
Okay.
It's off their first album, Falling Down. It starts out, you'll hear, I mean, just listen to it. It
I wrote
starts
it
out
down.
jumpy, aggressive, new metal, exactly what you think a band would sound like from 1999 to 2002 kind of thing. But then eventually at one point of the song, they make this conscious decision to just let it go and breathe, and it goes somewhere, and they do it in such a good way. Like that is a underrated band for one. And I guess I'm closing out on 40 Below Summer, but one of the biggest influences for me and several of the bands I've been in is just that particular song too is one that really, it'll catch you. Like there's a point in that song. I want to get your take off the record later. Like if you listen to it at the right time, for me, it's driving. But if you let this song get you in that pumped mode in the beginning where it's like, yeah, this is aggressive, this is pump, I'm ready to go, knock some stuff around, get in the mosh pit, but then it goes somewhere else, and then it hits you in a whole other place that you weren't ready for.
Awesome.
So,
I wrote it down. I'm definitely checking it out.
Hell yeah. Well, guys, cue the Muses. Go to cuethemuses.com. Help us out. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got merch set up online. You can get t-shirts, coffee cups. My mom's got all the coffee mugs on there. Ash is working his butt off trying to get chapter 3.
Chapter 3.
Cue the Muses saga. Trying to get it out.
Yeah.
We can. We're working on it.
Working on it, guys.
If you want to come support, come find me. I'll be in Tallahassee Saturday, January 13th. I'll be playing with my band Dave's Last Night, which my 14-year-old son is also in the band with me. We'll be on stage at Legacy at the Riverfront. I'll have some merch for sale out there. And if you want to help Cue the Muses out, come by and see me. I'll give you a card, give you a straight link to the website. Right here, we'll give you one of these business cards with a QR code. You can scan it right to your phone. Find us right. Yeah, it's a good time.
You'll give them 10 of them if they want to hand them out to friends as well. Like, we're just trying to spread.
I'll give you 50 of them if you want to give.
Awesome, guys. We look forward to hopefully seeing you in the next podcast. If you have any opinions about anything we talk about on any of these episodes, drop them. Let us know. We will communicate back. We'll even potentially bring them up as topic points of discussion in following episodes. So let us know what you want us to talk about, or what you found interesting in these, so we know what more to talk about.
That's right. Thank you, guys. Guys who stuck with us for an hour, we love you.
Love you.
Have a great one. We'll see you Saturday.